Magnesium helps keep calcium in solution. All right, calcium in its natural form is insoluble, like little crystals. In other words, in a glass of water, those calcium crystals will sink to the bottom. And a similar thing happens in the bloodstream without enough magnesium. The calcium remains insoluble. But by adding magnesium, we're able to keep the calcium in solution. As we've already talked about, magnesium helps stimulate calcitonin to draw calcium out of soft tissue where it doesn't belong and deposit calcium into bone where it can then play a positive role. This is why magnesium is so important for the prevention of osteoporosis as well as heart disease. And the excess of one of these minerals lowers the other, so it's all about balance. The problem, though, is that the vast majority of people are significantly deficient in magnesium for a number of reasons, as we'll look at. Magnesium deficiency can be measured both absolute, the magnesium level by itself, as well as relative, its status relative to calcium. And most of the population is overcalcified, which compounds the magnesium deficiency problem, because not only are people deficient in an absolute measurement, but also relative to calcium. Less than 30% of U.S. adults consume the recommended daily intake of magnesium, and nearly 20% get only half of the magnesium they need daily to remain healthy. That's shocking, isn't it? In other words, over 70% of the population is deficient in magnesium, and that is based on a recommended daily intake that many experts agree is already set far, far too low. The true deficiency status of magnesium amongst the population is, in all likelihood, much higher. So why are so many people imbalanced? Why are we deficient in magnesium, and why do we have excess calcium? Well, first we'll look at reasons for magnesium deficiency, and there are many. Numerous factors contribute to magnesium loss and deficiency relative to calcium. These factors contributing to magnesium loss or insufficiency include, get ready for this, number 1, psychological stress, emotional, lifestyle, work, relationship, or physical stress. Any stressor in your life, whether it's mental, emotional, or physical, causes a loss of magnesium. The presence of toxic metals, such as mercury and aluminum, which most all of us have some level of. The overaccumulation of biounavailable copper, which also affects most people, and we'll certainly be going into the topic of copper later on in this course. Phytic acid, which is common in our nuts, grains, and legumes, increases magnesium elimination. The supplementation of excess vitamin D. Despite this fad currently that we're in for everyone to take vitamin D, all this excess vitamin D is lowering our potassium, which then increases the sodium to potassium stress ratio, which we'll look at in unit number 4. And as we already know, stress depletes magnesium. And on a side note, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, if you are deemed to be vitamin D deficient, it's likely a result of excess calcium and insufficient magnesium in your body. And taking more vitamin D only makes that situation worse. The processing of food. The milling process, most magnesium in grains is lost through the milling process. Then you have roasting and oil extraction. Magnesium is lost from nuts and seeds through this process. Magnesium from greens is lost into the water when you're cooking those greens. And harvesting, storage, transport, and refrigeration, they all further contribute to nutrient loss. Phosphates. These are common in our sodas and deli meats and cereals, etc., and they bind to magnesium in the digestive tract, making the magnesium unavailable. Most dark-colored sodas contain phosphates, and these substances bind with magnesium inside the stomach, inside the digestive tract, making that magnesium not available. So even if you are eating a balanced diet, by drinking soda with your meals, you're actually flushing magnesium out of your system. Fluoride in our drinking water. Fluoride also binds to magnesium, making it insoluble. the consumption of caffeine and alcohol and cannabis and sugars, as I mentioned. So sugar, consider that it takes 54 molecules of magnesium to metabolize 1 molecule of sugar. So for every little bit of sugar you're consuming, think of how much more magnesium you're wasting in that process. As for cannabis, while it can offer short-term positive effects, taken long-term, it too will deplete magnesium. Heavy sweating, endurance sports, night sweats, hot flashes, those also deplete magnesium. And a slew of erroneous advice and dietary guidelines that are just set way too low. And by this I mean there's far too little emphasis on the importance of magnesium out there relative to how important it is. Many nutrition courses actually teach that you can get sufficient magnesium through diet alone, but that completely ignores all the factors, as you're looking at right now, that deplete magnesium from the body. And the recommended daily intake for magnesium is set around 350 to 400 milligrams per day, depending on what country you're in. And that too, for most people, is far too low. However, these messages lead people to believe that, hey, if I'm getting 300 milligrams of magnesium, I'm getting enough. And in all likelihood, they're not getting enough, and most people are deficient. Continuing with reasons why we're losing magnesium and why we're deficient.